to Journey to Service. I'm William Laddick, and joining me once again, Randall Kaiser, Lee Mudway, and Cody Watts. Gentlemen, how are you today? I'm going to start. Cody's off camera for now, but he may be able to join us on camera in a little while, but we can definitely hear him. Randall, how are you doing this morning?
Tickety-boo. Whoops. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. I love everybody. And this is just, one of those things.
Yeah. You were doing right eye anyway, so I think you're okay. You're only doing that over your left eye.
I love you.
Lee, how's it going in your world? I saw your interview yesterday with Rick Jurors talking more about GPMS. How's life these days in your world?
Great, brother, great. There's a lot more going on now, so we're getting a lot more information out, speaking to a lot more people, so everything's balmy.
Wonderful. And Cody, you are going to be near a lake today, I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up here, so I was gonna go try to find location. So
okay,
yeah, probably within 5-10 minutes I'll have a spot.
I will give you lots of time to do that. We'll talk to the other two fellows first. Today I thought we would go back a little bit, just for the benefit of the viewers, just to get an idea of how you gentlemen got exposed to what you are currently focused on. So in Lee's case, it's GPMS. For Randall's case, it's about, private banking. And I know we wrote a book about it. So obviously, Randall doesn't have to give away the entire book or anything, but I'm kind of curious, and I'll start with you, Randall, is you were a rancher for a fairly good chunk of time. And then all of a sudden you got into private banking, but what flipped it for you? Can you share with us a little bit of that story and where you were and how you were exposed to it, and why were you sort of scratching your head saying, okay, maybe it's time to look at this private banking stuff?
Well, yeah, I'll keep it short. There was a time when I was already looking at the idea of sovereignty in the form of common law jurisdiction versus the legal universe that I'd speak about, that we still are always tempted to be dragged back into, the government story, right? And when I was going through that process, I can't even remember exactly how I bumped into a man named Angelito Malunga. He lives in Vancouver. He's an architect and an engineer. And he had claimed through a couple of conversations that he had the special power of attorney over an extremely large asset-backed account, okay? Handed on from Marcos to his predecessor, which was Jose Bautista Cruz, and then on to him because Bautista Cruz passed away, who was a friend of Marcos, older than Marcos, but a friend of Marcos, who Marcos trusted with one of the many asset-backed accounts that they brought on ledger via safekeeping receipts and assays way back when, right? And this account included gold certificates. So remember, they're not depositing gold in the bank, they're putting a certificate in the bank, so giving the bank credit to then use. And then victory notes, which were paper documents that were given to the Philippines from MacArthur, I believe his name was, one of the generals, took them over there and said, here, you're going to start the new monetary system. So they basically, it was the kind of the tail end of the Spanish Empire and the British Empire in the Philippines, moving into the American Empire in the Philippines. So this is historic, where these empires all have this focus on the Philippines, right? Why? Because it's close to what we call Lemuria, a civilization that either sunk or may even still exist over there in some form, and the numerous places that treasure can be hidden. Sulu Sea being the area between the Philippines and Malaysia, where for hundreds, if not thousands of years, ships would go through rather than the outside edge where rougher waters, And all kinds of pirating went on in there, all the stories about pirate ships. A lot of that happened right there. So there was like all this excess treasure that's still there and buried there. So connecting to Angelita Malanga was my first step into discovering that stuff. Then, as Cody referred to it, Yamashita gold was added to it. So the Japanese and the Germans and all these, when World War I and II were going on, and they were distracting us with ideas of communism and capitalism and all this stories about humanity, all it was just stealing things. You know, these armies would go in and steal shit, steal some more gold. That was pirating. That's what World War I and II were about. So the Yamashita gold was where they decided, Yamashita, well, we're going to hide it in the Philippines. They did a bunch of that from the Vatican again. They did a bunch of it from Nazi Germany again and hid it again into those islands in that area and in the archipelago. I'll end it with that and then add on that at that time, I was still thinking in a somewhat capitalist mode where if we could get our hands on some of that money, we could build projects, right? When I dropped into the Philippines the first night, and this is the story I think you're trying to drag out of me, William, is that it was in the dark. I woke up the next morning, went out onto the street of my hotel, where my hotel was, which was a mediocre part of town. And a little girl got up off the street with a dirty, filthy dress, her hair all matted and her face all dirty, and asked me for money. And I sat down on the step and wept with her. And I said, Randall, this isn't about building projects for you. This is about changing the whole fucking world. And that was the moment, I would say, if you're going to ask me when I got into private banking at the level I'm at and why I'll never stop. I'm here for humanity, and I'm not going to stop until it happens. And I don't care who, and we'll tell stories about who I'm involved with now later on in the show, but that'll be my introduction to that part, William. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randall. I have a little bit more I want to ask. Actually, another question came from that made me wonder. At that time, you were already looking at projects. What motivated you to do projects rather? Like, I thought you were there to to build your business, to get investors to buy the beef that you were raising. And I'm caught a little by surprise this morning when you said you were looking at projects. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? And then I'll jump over to Lee and then Cody from there.
Yeah, well, the projects were and still are the same. And the projects that I'm involved with are agricultural based, so basically raising healthy, natural food, non-chemically inhibited as very much as possible. We're going to have to drag that back, if you can imagine how far the agricultural industry has gone, but basically that's the projects. And then the projects would involve consciously treating the contracted workers. I don't want to call them employees in that legal jurisdiction language, but the people that assist us and work with us to do these projects, treating them consciously, getting down to things like 6 hour work or 6 hour a day work week, or things like that, just getting rid of the old concept of slavery and bringing inclusivity in and consciousness, not only to the animals and the food products, the plants and the vegetables and the fruit and everything, including the animals, bringing that consciousness to that, but also bringing it to the people and the energy and the godliness within those people. So that would be the way I'd say the projects, and that hasn't stopped because that's where I'm after. That's what I'm here for.
The one more question of clarification for me and the audience is we've been hearing about humanitarian projects through things like the QFS and things like that. That's at least the way my first exposure to that was. The whole reason, or not the whole reason, but a good part of the reason for the quantum financial system or whatever system we're going to ingrain is so that humanity starts giving back to humanity in the form of projects. So I would assume that you didn't know about the QFS at that point. So these projects were just something that you felt in your heart that you wanted to do for your world, so to speak, like your level of business? Like you were a rancher, so you were looking at in the agricultural space. So was this coming from your own mind, or was this something that was born from working with other ranchers? Because I know you also worked on certain boards and, you know, things like that at that time. Can you tell us a little bit more of the origination of the projects in your mind? Was it your own, and then you linked up to the sort of the humanitarian, you know, bent from the QFS type of thing, or was it something else entirely?
No, it was our own, you know, like even previously I had made trips to China and New York dealing with some distributors and wholesalers to actually market the beef. And, you know, of course, there's always profit in the back of any entrepreneur's mind. And at that time, there was more profit thoughts. But at the same time, the natural beef and the humanitarian design was always the same, right?
Yeah.
So, but over time, I would say, if anything dissolved, it was my idea of ownership and of control. You know, managing projects, yes, but not so much. Okay, we're going to make, instead of cardio, we're going to have Kaiser beef or some fucking thing like that. You know, like it's not about that anymore. And that was that day when I sat with that little girl and I thought, it's big enough and yet small enough that we can make an effect on the world. And now I know that we can change the whole damn world once we get these funds opened up, because that was the only thing holding it back. And it's funds. It's not currency. It's not money. It's not credit. It's funding, because it's sitting there waiting for us.
There's still one more. Like this is juicy. This is like some really, really good beef you're giving us here. So I just thought I want to go into the juices a little bit more. You talked about the projects. Now, when you said the projects, you realized that it wasn't coming from an egoic place. So was there ever a time where Randall was sort of this, you know, ego-focused guy, and then something switched where you said, I want to do something for the world? Was that obviously it had to be before the little girl, because you were already thinking about projects before you met the little girl. And so even the way you raised your beef, it sounds to me like you were doing things in a much more holistic mentality. So where did that holisticness come from?
Wow, you're digging.
I'm digging.
You're digging, brother. And that's good, because you're right to dig. It came from when my father died, okay? My father died from stomach cancer and I was 21 years old. And at that time I was, you know, kind of vaulted into the agriculture industry. And I was using fertilizer on my crops. I was using chemicals on the crops and stuff like that. I was even implanting some of the cattle with one of those implants way back then. That's like 40 years ago. And then when my father died, it was like, what the fuck are we doing to ourselves? You know, we need natural food. And my switch started back then. And then we grew a natural food chain market. For 20 years, we produced beef into Calgary stores, and we had our own store. And then we went to the point of, okay, let's take this to the international level. That's when I found out about how corrupt and insane the monetary system is. Funding organizations like Cargill and Walmart, not financing them, funding them. And then if someone wants to come into this and say, no, we're going to do it naturally, then it's all about finance, and then it's about scrutiny, and then it's about judgment, and get that fucker out of the way. We've got a global agenda here to work on. So there's the beef of that.
Yeah, lots of juicy juices. And I apologize to anyone who's vegan who doesn't like, you know, meat and that kind of thing. But, you know, a good eggplant parmesan, perhaps, you know, that kind of thing, you know, totally awesome.
Well, and listen, you don't think I've got it over the years for talking about beef and animals and the sentient being thing? My God, I get nailed all the time with that. But I think a carrot has as much life, and corn. And I mean, we've got experiments where these plants actually communicate with each other. I'm a tree guy. I can feel the energy when I hug a tree, just like I can feel it when I pet a fucking cat. So please, you know, like, have your thing, you know, like make your choice. But am I going to back away from consciously raising and consciously finding ways to harvest beef animals? No fucking way. Our children need good quality protein in their bellies and not some fucking soybean that's going to make them sterile. Okay. And is there ways to grow soybean and corn and stuff that is natural and healthy too? Yes. But fucking there's none of it out there hardly. So it's big picture stuff. And I get pretty passionate when it comes to you know, my choice, and everyone else has their choice, and I respect their choice. So do what the hell you want. Love life. Enjoy yourself. Don't fucking come down on me for eating a steak.
All right. We'll leave the juicy bits right there. That was great to go there. Thank you for all of that, Randall. I want to jump over to Lee here and again, welcome Lee to the show. And Lee, GPMS seemed to be what we've been talking about with you predominantly in the last few weeks. And I thought, you know, today's a little bit of a history show, at least the way it started off. And I was kind of curious as how to you got, I mean, you weren't the person who was born with the idea, but you became aware of it, and you've really taken it on now. So can you tell us a little bit of the history there as far as how you got introduced to it and why you felt like, yeah, this feels right for me and I'm going for it?
I wasn't the person that was born William. That's what they put on my birth certificate, brother. No, it's different with me because my background's more on the questioning basis. So I was very young when I first started to question quite a lot of things, probably 13, 14. First introduced to Mr. von Daniken and started to look into pre-Diluvian history and started to look into a lot of things that we don't find answers to, that the answers weren't satisfactory. Somebody told me very young, and again, take this or leave it. If aliens appeared, then we'd stop looking at the floor and start looking up and working together. And this suck in, this really sunk into me is, what are we doing? What are we doing at an early age? Of course, then you get trampled down by life, etc., etc. And a few years back, I was having a chat in a bar about how I foresaw the future of humanity. And it's only about 5-6 years ago. And I actually said a depopulation through a world war. Something's got to stop this uncivilized civilization. It's going to fail. I'm not sure what. Long story short, then it leads to the beginning of this, whatever we're in at the moment. I'm not going to say too much on that so we don't get banned. But I was very enthused by that because it was a total lie across the whole board. So where there were what the CIA nicely termed theorists all over the place, but sporadic, now all of a sudden everybody had a little bit of a view of it. That led then to the fall into the old Jazara Nizara route, and a lot of what I would call divine knowledge coming my way, if you want to see it that way, or education, information, to strip down and put into aspects of what's going on. But this is on the back of 30 years of looking into everything I could find that was non-mainstream. So a lot of it just sunk straight in, including the birth certification frauds, the banking structure frauds, and the financial system frauds. I'd already been teaching or involved with the health and safety system. So I already knew the legal structure was a fraud. I already knew a lot of all of this and the sovereignty stuff because of my questioning. So I already knew a lot of that, but it was mute to go against it because it seemed so overarching and overpowerful at the time. So then it was fortuitous or divine that I met Randy. And Randy was involved with this new ministry, this bringing the ancient funds in, which seemed a better idea than this, what I will term bullshit Jazara and Nizara idea. So then it was an affiliation to Randy. We started to speak. That led to meeting up with Rick Dewars, because Randy knew Rick, or Randy knows Rick. And Rick had this other option of GPMS, which didn't involve these sovereign funds. Now, my issue with the sovereign fund stuff was that I wasn't on paper exactly the same as always in the past. If you haven't got the certificate, you can't speak to us, or you can't do this. Well, I wasn't sovereign, and I wasn't willing to go down the route. Sorry, I was sovereign, but I wasn't willing to go down the route of telling people I was through certification, which meant that I wouldn't be spoken to by X amount of other people who wanted that certification. this sort of thing, standard sort of battles we've had all of our lives. So I actually said to Randy, I don't know, just before Christmas last year, I said, is there anything I can do to help you? And he said, not really. I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and do this then. Boom. And because I was going to do one or the other, I was going to do something that benefited all, because it's what I want. And if I want it, then I want everybody else to have it. And that's that sovereignty, that's that freedom, that's that truth, and that's that transparency. I want it. I want everybody else to have it too. It's not just a case of hoarding this for myself. So inevitably, I walked into this other solution or this other system instrument with my eyes wide open, but not really sure what it was going to do. And then I've grown into that now. And of course, over the last year, a lot of other things have happened that have, I would class as events, and the frequency of those events have happened, and they're all aligning to one thing. So without going into too much depth, that's where I've come from and where I'm going to. I'm the same as Randy. I will not stop until there is complete abundance and freedom and truth across this plane. And I think there's millions of others out there that are in the same ilk, maybe to a certain degree, but there's so many people that know that there's too many lies for those lies to be hidden from the whole of humanity for too much longer. And that's never going to go away. It doesn't matter how much the media tells you this, that, and the other. It's never going to go away. Those questions are always going to remain until they are answered. And this is where we are, answering those questions. And we'll see how that goes.
Lee, a couple of things stand out for me that I wanted to ask you further on. I think I'll start with the crossroad. I mean, I call it a crossroad. You didn't actually use that word, but you were basically looking at a situation where you were talking with Randy and saying, is there anything I can do to help? So it sounded like at that point, you already made up in your mind, you want to take the next step, whether that's helping Randy with what he was doing, or whether that was doing GPMS, because that was the only other thing from the sounds of it that really made sense to you that you could pursue. But you had to have made a decision at some point that you wanted to help humanity. You wanted to wake up humanity and take them down a different path from the path that we had been going on. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Can we dive into that a little bit as far as what brought you to that decision? Why did you feel like you needed to do this? Can you talk about that a little bit?
To be honest with you, I can't think of a time that I went, I need to help. There wasn't a switch that went to say, I want to help you. It wasn't not like that. It wasn't a crossroad moment where I went from service to self to service to others. It was always been a service to others aspect to me anyway. What it was it just felt right. It was a pull, a tug. I can do this. I know what this is, and I'm strong enough to run this, and I'm strong enough to do this and go that route. It doesn't, I don't back down to others' egos necessarily. I don't back down to other groups saying you have to comply with this or comply with that. Otherwise, it doesn't matter to me. No, this is what I think, and this is the way it is. So in that aspect, that sort of stubborn-headedness or blind
authenticity,
we'll call it. Go on. Authenticity. There you go. My authentic nature meant that I couldn't do anything other than step into a role that seems to be pushing towards helping humanity as a whole. It wasn't a choice. It was just a natural, authentic thing for me to do. Whether, I don't want to, I'm happy to step back when others maybe step forward. It's not something I need to do. It's just something I feel I can and want to do without that switch being thrown. It's just a natural progression in my mind.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. The other question I wanted to ask you was something you said right at the very beginning of your first answer, and that was that you are a questioner. You're a person who likes to question, and I think I've even heard some of the gurus who do a lot of self-help kind of stuff. Specifically, I'm thinking of like Tony Robbins, said you always get the best results when you ask yourself good questions, and not just yourself, but other people too. But if you're, obviously in his context, we're talking about self-help and, how you want to up level yourself, asking yourself really good questions. It was the questioning, is that just a natural by nature kind of thing for you? Or is that something you kind of worked yourself into and discovered?
No, it's something it was something not a lot of hard work, to be honest with you, because of the amount of derision you get from just asking simple questions where everybody's following a certain route. Don't ask questions it's easier not to. I always would. Of course, that puts you on the outside. But I would agree totally. The problem we got with asking questions is we don't ask honest questions in general. So it's the hard questions that we don't ask. We ask the easier ones, tend to ourselves as well as to externals. So it was moving down that route of asking harder and harder and harder questions until you have no choice but to ask the hardest. I had no choice anyway, because I fell into a pit of despair, as I talked about before. So then I'm asking questions on a very, very intimate soul level of what am I, who am I, and these sort of things. And then, so it's led up for many, many years to asking really serious, honest, truthful questions of yourself. And then, of course, when you come out of that was what, 3 years ago for me now. Then every question has to be truthful and honest. It's once you start to switch this mindset of everything's got to be pure, then every question's got to be pure and it's got to be true. And you've got to make, so you're contemplating the question now, you're contemplating the answer that you get, and you're questioning the answers. So nothing stops. You never stop questioning. Otherwise you just stop. So there's a constant question of everything. Is this right? Is that right? Is that? And so that way it's opening everything up to being pure and true. You stop questioning when there is nothing left to question. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Exactly. Lee, thank you so much. That was awesome. I really enjoyed hearing that and your answers there. I'm really having a good time here with these two. And Cody's online now. He's got his camera on and looks like he's walking on water almost. Cody, how you doing? And where are you exactly again?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you and see you.
It's not echoing. Okay, cool. This is Watson Lake in Prescott, Arizona. So this, with all the rocks and everything, it's called the Dells. It's kind of a cool little area. There's little hiking trails all around it. The spot that I was gonna go, it's like way up at the top, and there's a bunch of people there, so I had to hike way down at the bottom. So that's why it took a while.
Oh, no worries. The timing actually worked out really, really well. I'm not sure if you were able to hear any of the conversation, but we were just going back in time a little bit, but with a specific goal, and that is to talk about what it is that led you to, the focus that you're on right now. So, your focus is in the private banking world. But at some point, you didn't know anything about the private banking world. So something led you there. You did share a little bit with us on that very first episode that you joined us. But I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that first part of the story, not your whole overview, obviously, but that first experience, if there was a first experience or maybe a series of experiences that made you say, hey, maybe this financial thing that I'm living in here with the general public isn't the real deal. So was there sort of a moment of awakening for you, or was it slightly different? And can you tell us a little bit of the story of that for you, Cody?
Yeah, so basically when I kind of got started into it all was in 2007. But my entire life, I've always been all about freedom, like my entire life. I think I said last time, the first company that I started was Fearless Freedom, because I was doing anything, and just knew something was wrong in the world. But in 2007, and by this time I'd already been like a firefighter for several years, so I've always been into, helping others, and that definitely like fulfilled me. But I was wanting to do more, wanting to be able to create like a bigger impact. So I was just diving into all sorts of different investment things. And it was in early 2007 when I was like become a founding member of this private like investment club. And there was, through that, I met some people, and they were talking about like the RV, GCR, Iraqi dinar, all these things. And so I dove into it like at that point, buying some currencies and stuff like that, but I really didn't do like a whole lot with it until a couple years later, when I really started like looking deeper into it all. And at that point it was more about like I never believed the guru stuff, but like I was seeking out, like I'm all about like I have that earnestness to find the truth. So like I just keep going and keep connecting. And I know Lee was mentioning something earlier, like, or one of you guys, about like authenticity and stuff like that. And you can tell, like, a lot of times when it comes to certain people that you interact with, if they're authentic, if they have like integrity, if they're truly, telling the truth or wanting the truth. Some people just aren't, they don't have that earnestness. So I just kept digging, and through that is when I started connecting a lot more to the private side, to a lot of these groups or families or individuals that were dealing with these off ledger funds and trusts and assets and stuff. And I'm not gonna like go into it all, like all the various connections and stuff, but it was through that and through some of the currencies and stuff that I was holding. I was in, like, there were like private exchanges. Everybody that was like part of it was, and they were going to use these funds to back it. And, these currencies were supposed to RV, and it was going to be used for projects for the most part, like 80, 90%, some personal, but the majority for projects, whether you had your own project or you wanted to put into some other humanitarian project that somebody else had. So that just like completely excited me at the time, because I always knew something was like messed up in the world. So being able to have the resources to be able to do the things that, like, that a lot of us dream about, like that we feel some sort of purpose and we want to change things in the world, was like really what excited me at the time. But I didn't really fully understand or know about like all the kind of like dark evil shit and the entire like controlling structure of everything at the time. And then it was 2012 when I acquired like these historical assets, bonds and stuff, flew out, met with people, and then really started like finding out all these things. And that was like major transactions and stuff that I was, part of, like dealing directly through the banks at the highest levels and stuff. But things were always getting caught up. And, through that, I just, I went on a journey just to like, diving deep, researching everything I could, kept connecting. And over the years, I mean, because it was grueling, like on a weekly basis, and I'm getting called from high level international attorneys and, paymasters and all these things, like saying like, oh yeah, next week, thing. And it was just like, it drains you. That was years. So I just kept going. And, it was through that it really opened my eyes to a lot. And I stepped away from the fire department I worked at, which was an amazing, I made really good money, like 150 grand a year, and working like 8 days a month, full benefits, all these things. And it was like unheard of to walk away from that, which I still regret it sometimes now. But I felt at the time like if I stayed, I'd become content and I would never push myself. There was just something inside of me always saying like, this desire to do something major in the world. Like I always felt it. And I felt like I would just become content. And I've always been a risk taker, like with a lot of like everything really. So, I walked away from that and, got into the real estate stuff, did really well for a while, but, hit some really hard times. And, the last few years, like I've just like worked and done enough to really like kind of get by, because I lost hundreds of thousands. I mean, I still have money tied up in things, but, I just did enough to get by so I can put all my focus, and really, like I said last time, was seeking out these fulcrum points, seeking out these key people and trying to bring them together to really figure out what the hell's going on. Because I was just seeing so many disconnects, so much misunderstanding, so many people not able to see other people's perspectives, making quick judgments or assumptions, you know, others that, you know, they think they're telling the truth, but it's actually not the truth, but they're being truthful to themselves, you know, and they don't even realize it. And, you know, all these programs and stuff, and just diving deep into all these subject matters that I'm sure most all of us have dove into, whether it's in the spiritual, the metaphysical, you know, even the esoteric, you know, teachings, all these various things, to really start seeing things differently. And you know, it's when there's a point where, you know, I've gotten in some trouble in my life, like the early years of my life, like I definitely had fun, you know, I was partied a lot, hanging out with girls, you know, traveling around, doing all sorts of stuff. And I had gotten in trouble at times, getting in fights, getting arrested or whatever. But it was later on, I got arrested too. Like I hit like a point of depression after all this stuff. And it was like, you know, I'd never felt that really in my life. And there was a bunch of other things going on too with relationship stuff that it just like, it just killed me. And I ended up like, basically I broke my neck, and I was addicted to like pain pills. I did a double flip on a trampoline in San Diego and ruptured 2 discs. And they put me on these pain pills, which I kind of like got addicted. It wasn't like crazy bad. And then there was a girl I was dating. I ended up basically kind of like continuing on with these like opiates. And that led into, which was like, you know, it's crazy, like dealing with addiction and stuff, but it led to getting arrested when I was just traveling through Arizona, which I was down here for like business stuff. And this guy like jacked a bunch of my money and I came down to like, you know, find him. He was supposed to pay me. And then on my drive back to the Bay Area, I was pulled over, arrested. And then it was like everything that I lived for, you know, my freedom, it's like gone at that point. So that's when I really like went deep into like, after I spent months in jail and stuff. Arizona is like a crazy state when it comes to this stuff. Like, you know, I didn't harm or hurt anybody, you know, it's just, I had some things in the car that I wasn't supposed to. And, you know, but that led me into like really diving into the law and like legal stuff. And then really understanding that like how screwed up that is when it comes to, you know, us being sovereign and being able to like self-govern. And, you know, I heard something the other day, I forget who was saying it, but somebody was saying something that the entire system, like everything's been inverted. So, it's, you know, like these cosmic laws, these natural laws, like the law of abundance and, you know, the laws of karma and all this stuff, you know, man, us, like we basically inverted all that and like tried to control it. And we created like this legal justice system, which the laws of karma, like normally, you know, natural law would take care of that, you know. And then, you know, when it comes to like the law of attraction or the law of abundance or whatever, like we tried to control that through the monetary system and all this stuff. And everything was like flipped upside down. It's like, you know, normally when it comes to these natural laws, like abundance, like what you give away, you get to keep, comes back to you like threefold, you know. But we tried to control it, you know, or, you know, certain groups and people try to control all these aspects. And I dove deep into how things really, like how messed up things really were. And all these little things within all the legal structures and jurisdictions and all this stuff, how it kept us in bondage, kept us like entrapped, and kept us from really ever being able to like self-actualize, you know, tap into our creator capacity, you know, follow our true passions and desires and like what our purpose is. Because we gotta, you know, we're constantly running, you know, in the rat race, in the wheel, trying to survive, trying to get by. So yeah, I know I probably jumped around. I don't even know if I answered the question exactly.
You answered the question and added a lot more to it, actually, Cody.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
I was thinking, couple of things as well in your situation. One is just an overall comment, gentlemen. What I realized, the commonality between the three of you is you all have huge hearts. You all have the desire to help humanity, and that's very admirable. I realized as I was listening to each one of you that I'm in really good company. You know, I'm blessed to be surrounded by people who care about other people, and that's demonstrating something for me, and interesting, because I'm going through some interesting things right now as we speak here. So I'll tell you more about it off camera, because it might be an interesting place for me to go in the next 7 days, because I'll be visiting with another gentleman in our network later tonight, and it should be an interesting time. But anyways, getting back to Cody, Cody, obviously it felt like you went through some dark times, and all really compressed into like 13 or 14 years. So it was pretty fast moving by the sounds of it. And one of the things that crossed my mind was about, for a lot of us, you know, survival is pretty important, or we think it's, at least to our egos, it's important, because, and part of it's also the conditioning and the indoctrination we had growing up, where you have to make a living, right? You have to make money, otherwise you're going to starve. And so I thought to myself, you know, how did Cody survive after he let go of that job? Obviously, that was a very difficult thing to do, I'm sure, to walk away from what is a pretty prestigious job and a very lucrative job in the form of, you know, paying you an income. What do you remember what year that was, Cody? And did you have some financial backup to fall back on at that point, or were you just going on trust at that stage?
It was mainly just trust. And yeah, that was like mid 2011 when I completely like made the decision. At first it was going to be like I was going to do a year leave of absence, which, you know, and then I could have came back, but I took the plunge, took the jump, and I didn't really have much to fall back on, really. I mean, I had a bunch, you know, in retirement and all those things, but I couldn't touch it the way it was all set up. But I really got into the real estate stuff at that time. You know, the market had crashed. There was all sorts of things going on. And because I like went through some of the same things with foreclosure and short sales, and, you know, doing stuff with like debt settlement and learning all these various things that, you know, a lot of people are unaware of. I had a lot of knowledge of the whole like distressed property foreclosure thing. So I just I had a lot of connections, you know, investors, agents, and, you know, contractors and stuff. And so I just kind of like built like a team together, just like connected us together. And I went out and started dealing with these distressed properties and talking to people directly and being like, you know, you got a foreclosure date coming up, like in a few days. Like I could stop it within hours before, you know, like we knew how to do these things. Like I understood how to do it. And I would never, for me, it was always about like wanting to find out what they wanted. Did they want to do like a loan modification, because so many people were upside down at the time? Or did they want to, you know, be able to stay in their house a few months more instead of being kicked out by the bank, and, you know, so they can figure some things out and get cash in their pocket? You know, whatever it was that they wanted to do. If they wanted to stay in their home for like 2 years, you know, like we knew how to do that. Had attorneys, all these things. But so I would just like go talk to these people. There's a lot of people, you know, upside down. Some of them were purposely just letting their homes go, but they didn't realize that they had a lot of these other options. And the banks were, it was completely fraudulent what they were doing. They were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But through that, like I was able to get a lot of solid relationships. And if somebody decided they wanted to short sale their house, or, you know, even if they had equity, you know, sell it, or if they wanted to stay in it longer, you know, we would, you know, file like a skeleton BK and like, you know, work on it through the attorneys and stuff, and work on loan mods, and they could stay for months. And then if they changed their mind, you know, they would work through me. And then I kind of had like agents and all this stuff. We'd work together. So I did well for a few years, just, you know, flipping properties and helping people. But then, you know, I really started like diving deep and putting a lot of time into other things, and expecting a lot of things to happen. I let a lot go. Like I was let all sorts of things and major transactions that I like would have been paid really well. And I just was kind of like letting others have it because I was expecting some major things. You know, this is what led into, you know, it just was a grind for a while. But what was your question again? Sorry.
This was, well, I was just asking, you know, a little bit about the real estate side,
if I had that.
but yeah, the only other thing, do you still do the real estate now?
No, I haven't for like a few years. Like after coming through Arizona and then basically having to move down here to deal with the legal stuff, which I finished it all and everything. But everything I was doing was kind of more in the Bay Area. I did a little bit down here in the Valley. There's a lot of wholesalers and stuff, but for the past few years, I haven't really done anything with it. But it's, I mean, I still have all kinds of friends. They're doing all sorts of stuff, doing really well.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're talking about money, and I think that might be a good transition into our next subject, which is a question that actually was asked on one of Randall's videos about currency, about, you know, the next step. If we switch to something, what could that look like? And so I kind of wanted to ask each of you, maybe slightly differently in each case, but I'm going to start with Randall. Randall, I think you already have some answers to that question that was given online. So I think I'll just let you run with it unless you want me to ask you something more specific. But I'm just thinking, what can we, what would you like to see as far as the next currency that we're dealing with, or even financial system?
First, I want to start with a couple of little points here about what Cody said and how, you know, Cody and I and Lee and yourself, William. I mean, we could ask you the questions too. When did you become such a kind-hearted humanitarian soul that you are? Because you are. You know, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's beautiful to listen to you speak and ask us questions, but everybody has to know by now that William is here because of his humanitarian loving spirit. You know, it's for everyone and everything every day. And so one thing that came up when we were talking about authenticity was I used to say DNA is divine natural activation, but now that it's activated in us, that A switched today to authenticity, divine natural authenticity, because we've all turned on our fucking lights. Don't get us wrong, folks. You can judge us all you want and poke holes at us. I got nailed a couple of times that last video I had on, you know, because I don't think Trump's being authentic, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. You know, what he speaks and at CPAC or with Sean Hannity or whatever isn't the same as what everybody's saying he's speaking, you know? So there's a lack of authenticity. I say that and boom, but that's okay. I'm fine with that. I've had lots of experience like Cody has in the business world, even had my realtor's license for a while, went to a Trump University real estate course, believe it or not, put a bunch of my money into his pocket for that, or through his company or whatever, and learned about foreclosures and all kinds of stuff. But that course wasn't as benevolent as I thought it would be. It was more taking advantage of the foreclosures rather than doing what Cody was doing, or trying to help people stay in their homes. So after I got out of that, it was like, I got to keep going. And you know, now we'll get into your question, William, because the last one I said was that Cody said that I think is huge words, folks. And don't forget these words. Are you telling the truth, or are you wanting the truth? Thank you, Cody. I'll never forget that. I wrote that down. That is so important, because there are so many people still seeking the truth, you know? And will we ever get the whole truth? Probably not. But Jesus Christ, there's more truth in these four men's minds right here in this group than in, you know, I don't know how many minds out there, including all the social media that keeps blasting away on their assumptions and presumptions. And dig into it. Go and, you know, visit other nations. Go to New York and sit across from Trump Tower in a room with a, you know, Yellow Dragon family member who's a black man that has a Asian mother, like look them in the eye, those kind of things. Cody and I have done that kind of stuff. So, it's not just research, it's experience. And through that experience, what we've done and what I'll get to in this funding regime is where I'm going. Forget the word finance. That finance word is what brought us into the whole term of usury and profiting off of individuals, exploiting mankind, the slavery system, the legal jurisdiction, which is all that politics is. So how in the hell can I get at these funds that I talked about, that I started off in with, asset-backed funds that were deposited in the bank, not physically, but through a safekeeping receipt, an SKR as we call it, backed up by proof of funds, backed up by KYC, CIS. These are the terms that Cody used in the first show. Know your customer, customer information sheet, KYC, CIS, proof of funds, like I said, all of that documentation to back up these. But how do we get there? Okay, and get to that funding, because it's unlimited. There is no limit to how much funding is available. The number of zeros that are behind the funds that are in these accounts is astronomical, let alone the stuff that has not been inserted into the banking system via a safekeeping receipt, or an assay. So it's unlimited. The only limited part is the limited mindset of government, okay? The dead entity, the genocide, the herbicide, the side that we've been on for all this side shit, CID, E. And how do we get out of that? Well, I'm trying to put together a team, right? Like Cody has, of finding those people that are telling the truth rather than seeking the truth, and then remaining focused on this idea of humanity and good for all and comfort for each and every human being, each and every man, woman, and child on earth, and then projects that are beneficial to all that do no harm, that are not connected to some globalist agenda, right? So how do we do that? Well, it was fine and challenging enough, not fine, but challenging enough to try and find a few bankers to deal with, okay? Because most bankers are still in that credit system mindset. And if they're not, then they're in the profit and hoarding mindset, right? So those bankers were difficult to find. Took us years, but Cody and I have found a few of them ourselves, okay? And we're mixing some of them. Some of them overlap. Some of them we're still trying to bring into our, kind of organization, if you want to call it that, of humanitarian loving banking officials, infiltrating the system with love rather than saying, fuck it, we got to explode this thing and then we can start all over. No, infiltrate the system that's already work with it, but infiltrate it with that love and that humanity that Cody speaks of as much as I do. So, we get there and then it's like, okay, so we still have this legal jurisdiction loony fucking verse to deal with, which is government of all kinds. And can we align with anybody there? Well, when I say that Donald Trump is not authentic, I mean it. Is he helping humanity? Yes. Is he a born again Christian guy that's going to, see the light and help humanity? Well, he speaks some of that, yes. And he'll say, we're here for the people and that kind of language. But has he ever said anything about common law? Has he ever said anything about where he got his credit to build all these towers all over the world and gone into bankruptcy? I think it's 4 times, 2 or 3 of those where he declared it and the rest it's kind of hidden away. You can research that stuff. You try going into bankruptcy and see how many years it takes to get out of it. I didn't go into bankruptcy because I knew what a scam it was too. It's all an insurance scam to get people off the hook, to get the banks off the hook, get them paid. It's just a complete utter nonsense. So anyway, that was where I got to the point of, okay, we've got a few bankers now. We've got a few people that understand the banking system, but what about some kind of organization that can administer the process rather than govern over the minds of the masses, right? And that's where I got to now, meeting up with aristocrats. And I'll use that word rather than elites or cabal or deep state or aliens or foreigners or any that kind of language. It's just simply aristocratic people, a lot of whom are in a position where they have their name on at the very least and their autograph. I don't like the word signature, like I say, because sig means fallen from nature, but have their autograph on these accounts. Some of them are bankers that have their autograph on these accounts because the aristocratic family's dissolved. Where does that go? Well, it stays in the bank, but some of these bankers are actually benevolent that are sitting on these accounts. One of whom, I'll say it outright, is a relative to the original CEO of the Bank of International Settlements. We're dealing directly with that man, okay? There's benevolent, beautiful people in all aspects of this. Not very many in the world of the banking families that manifested, not created, manifest being a piece of paper, this whole birth certificate slave system. There are still a few of those that I think have potential, but most of the people are these aristocrats. And then the sovereign human beings like myself, like William, like Lee, like Cody, who will just not give up because we know that that abundance exists. And that no matter what asset we're talking about, we're still the God in us, the resonance, the vibration, the energy, the currency within each of us is needed to put value on those assets. Because otherwise, what the hell? Don't give me this bullshit about supply and demand. And that's the reason gold is worth it what it is. Bullshit. Same with oil and everything else. It's all manipulated by a system of government, right? So we've got this group now that we're working with. And instead of using words even like kingdom, we're starting with divine order, okay? How can you distract from benevolence or love or anything like that when you start with the letters or the words D-O, divine order? So that's where I'm at. And that order is going to see funding come through for the comfort of human beings and for projects that are beneficial to all through a medium of exchange that I call the banking system. Nothing to do with currency. It's the banking system that is the medium of exchange. It's the place where things exchange, peer to peer, from these aristocrats that have their names on the accounts, from other people that have their names on these accounts, from the physical gold that exists. If we want to do another assay on it and measure it and bring it in, I visited with royal families in Jakarta that are sitting on this stuff because they're afraid that Allah is going to come and whack them on the head if they touch it. So they're sitting on it. We tried to talk to them about bringing in an assay, bringing in a safekeeping receipt and starting that in the banking system. You know how difficult that is with language barriers and everything else. But that kind of stuff exists as well on top of these accounts that are unlimited. So funding being the word, currency, resonance, vibration, all that is the God in you. That is you, currency. That is the human value that GPMS will often talk about. But the only thing that I differ from with GPMS is that we're still talking about a physical asset to back that, to back the funding and put it through with that resonance, vibration, and energy of the human to the projects and to the comfort of human beings, obviously.
there's a lot of stuff there. Like my mind inside is going, because there's just lots of stuff going on. But first thing is the word currency. I don't know why, but I got this picture in my head of an electrical current. And I just kept seeing, like energy, charge, and you're talking about, developing a divine order, a certain kind of energy. So currency, I saw as, and I've never studied words all that much until I met you, Randall. And then all of a sudden I got into, the meaning of words and what did it say? And I got a really positive charge, if you will, on that word currency. You know, it has, in some ways it has a bit of a bad rap, I think too, but in this context, in your context, the one you just explained to us, I see currency as a high charge positive thing, a very positive thing. So just something to share there. I wanted to also share one other thing with you, a little bit of a serendipitous moment this week. I was doing my dishes a couple of days ago, and I was sitting there thinking about, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but it did. And sometimes it happens in the most innocent of places, right? When you're doing your dishes, or, you know, you're sitting on the throne or whatever. And I was sitting there going, you know, mankind, we have to earn everything, it seems like, you know, like the general public, at least. You know, like the squirrels, they just, if they want some nuts, they just go get some nuts, you know. And if the deer wants some food, they just go and munch on some leaves somewhere, or some berries or something, you know. And they don't check in with somebody else and say, okay, well, you have to deposit 3 squirrels and a muskrat in order to get these berries, you know, that kind of thing. There's no management like that. Mother Nature just does things intuitively. And sure enough, the next episode of Randall's KTV show I saw, the very first thing he says is, we're the only species, we're the only creature on this planet that has to pay for their food, that actually has to pay money to get their food. So I want to thank you for that video and that comment. I don't know if that sparks any comments for you, but it just seems to me that if we can move ourselves out of the conditioning that so many of us have been raised in, and just say, okay, if I can remove myself, what would life be like? What would life be like if my food was for free? What would life be like if everything came to me that I wanted, that didn't require me to sweat equity it, or, you know, to earn it, but it was just there, that I could just reach out and say, okay, I need $30,000 because I'm going to get myself a home, and I'm going to bring some people in off the street, you know, because I want to live with people, and you know, that kind of thing, whatever it is. I'm just using that example. But Randall, is there anything you want to say to any of what I've just been sharing? Because it just seems as though, you know, like Cody was saying, we have this backwards in so many ways. And if we can just separate ourselves from the way things used to be and recreate things from a brand new place, wouldn't that be a much better world to live in?
Of course, William. And I'll just say it quick and then pass it on, because we want to share this time with everybody. But it's simply that if we had unlimited access to anything we wanted, okay, anything that we wanted, that's very utopian, and it would probably get us away from any idea of ownership and everything. But we have a system right now that exists, okay? And my theory is always add to that, you know, take what we've got and what do we do with it? So the idea of limiting where funds flow to which corporation is complete, utter insanity, and that's government that does that, right? And whether you call it the central banking system, Bilderberg government, or, you know, world government, new world order government, whatever, it's all government, because it's screwing with the minds of the people, but also screwing with the access to funding. So that has to end, you know, like, and can we take what we've got and add to it? Yes. Instead of just saying that these companies get funding, then we get more companies that get funding, okay? So it's just adding to. And those funding companies that get funding are the mom and pop brainchild ideas and stuff like that. People that want to put effort into something. A lot of people aren't going to want that. So so do you want to give them everything so that they can just go out and spend and buy boats and stuff? Our world would turn upside down, honest to God. So give the people that need their comfort, give them their comfort, okay? And not just a benefit or a privilege, but their comfort. Some number, like we often talked before about enough to have a roof over your head, whether that's paying for a mortgage at this point in time in that legal jurisdiction crap language, or paying their rent and their food. Beyond that, if you want money, what are you going to do with it? Are you just going to buy a boat? Are you just going to buy another house? Well, I'm sorry, you know, like that's That's not the reason that currency in the form of energy and transaction of energy is there for in a monetary sense. It's here to grow things and do things with it, right? So that's where the project funding and the comfort for the human, I still think, need to be in place for now. Will we get to a point where we can eliminate all of that? Well, that's going to depend on the human beings, because are you ready? Am I ready to have access to unlimited funding? And what am I going to do with it? Am I just going to sit on it? Am I going to hoard it? Or am I going to buy a boat or buy an airplane and fly around the world and do nothing? Or am I going to actually do something productive with it? That's the difference. So I'll pass that on.
All right, thanks, Randall. And I am noticing that the time is really getting away from me here. So I just want to give Lee and then Cody another shot, and then we'll have Randall wrap it up. Lee, we've said a lot since the last time we spoke earlier in the show. I have a feeling that you probably have some things to say just based on what we've talked about in the rounds. Is that accurate, or would you prefer I asked you a certain question? Because I think you have something to say and you want to say it.
It's not so much something to say, it's just a different view. I see it like I with the GPMS side of it, I see it very differently going forward. Because there is a difference in my mind of what humanity is going to be and how they're going to act. Not so long back, I was speaking to somebody and said if they had a load of money that they would buy a yacht and live in a big house and a few cars. And I said, well, what if everybody had a load of money? Would you do that then? Well, no. Why? Because the prestige isn't there then. And if it's all equal. So I see things moving forward slightly differently. I see truth and transparency being a completely different paradigm shake to the human collective. I see the human collective moving forward together more. So in limiting the funds, what Randy's saying about the existing system is perfectly good. We were speaking this week about the quantum system coming in shortly, and we need to get that first. And my question was, why? Everything we've got, we've already got here. The medium of exchange doesn't need to be, as we've discussed before, the GPMS doesn't look at a material value, because the material then has a value put upon it. It's outside of the system. So all of the systems become guarded, stewarded by humanity as a whole, for humanity as a whole. Therefore, there is, if you want to go out and buy a plane, go and do it. That's just teething problems. There won't be millions doing that. There'll be a few, and they'll stop. It's not like it's the majority. There'll be a few that will, maybe jump differently with given unlimited access to abundance, as opposed to the collective masses that will work for a better future for the lot. So I see an awful lot more of the energetics picking up in this. I see a lot of more of the consciousness picking up as we go through this apocalyptic timeline. As the truth is revealed and as this ascension period is moving forward, then humanity's consciousness is expanding. And at that point, that's when we could look at it as utopian, or just a natural progression from where we should have been through the shit that we've been through to back to where we should be. So I don't see a freedom and an abundance as a utopian society. I see it as a humane society, and the society that we should be in now. Not something that we can't do that, because no, I see it as how we should be now. So this is where, the GPMS also comes with the simplified divine law. So it's got the freedoms in it. It's not just the monetary side of it. There's a lot of freedoms in there. There's a lot of rights in there. The sovereignty is in there. And therefore this equality is in there. So if one has an abundant, if one sat on a hoard of treasure, why isn't everybody else? This sort of attitude. But that's the way I look at it. I don't want to take up too much time with that, because there's a lot we could go into with this. And I know we're running short, so I'll pass that one back.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate that consideration. And yeah, I totally relate to your comments. And I just want to say one thing, and actually maybe I'll use it as a transition to Cody, is what I heard you just say, is the way it landed in my mind, is that we've been living in an unnatural type of environment, thinking that it's normal or natural, but in fact, it was unnatural. And what you're saying, or what I was hearing you say, is we're going back to the natural. That's where we need to be. That's really the organic. That's really what we need to get back to.
Let's say we're not going back to it, we're going forward to it, but it could be seen as going back. We're not going back to anything. but we are going forward to what should be, and that is civilized, natural, organic society. And people can put, and I'm not knocking Randy for it because it's all of our stories. People can put this utopian idea on it. My question is, why the fuck not? There is no, why? We can call it utopian. Well, that's too much. Well, it isn't, not in my mind. But yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking transitional periods. I'm not putting them in myself. But there is, in my mind, there is no reason why we can't do this tomorrow. But there is a timeline that we're on, and there is other things and factors in play. So all I'm looking at is what would the human experience be like, and what's happening with the human experience, what's happening with reality. Is it going to remain the same? Are these structures going to be used by humanity when they realize what's happened to them through these structures? And how will they then be used? And should we be talking about that now, as opposed to maybe transitioning through these things? And if that happens, then that can happen, and that happens, then that can happen. I don't believe that that's all necessary. And in my mind, if it's not necessary, then it's unnecessary.
All right. Well, thank you for that distinction and for that clarity, and definitely more things to bite into next week for sure.
Yeah.
Cody, the things I'm wondering about is, do you have any visions or any thoughts of what this new world could look like when it comes to, having a new currency or a new financial system, or just a new way of doing things, which maybe isn't new, but really is something that was meant to be, and we just haven't been ever really living it, and at least not in our lifetime?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. To bring up a couple of things before I answer that specifically, as far as like the utopian society and all these things, like, I agree. Like, there's a lot of amazing things out there too. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of like the Venus Project, or there's actually all sorts of them. I've come across many groups and different people, like, trying to put together some sort of like utopian societies and stuff, and like, blueprints and plans. And, I'm kind of, agree with both Randall and Lee, like when it comes to this. But the only twist really for me is I still feel that there's going to have to be a transition period. So I completely see what Lee's talking about and the vision there. And I agree that's where we're going. And I 100% realize what Randall's talking about as well. And for me, I just feel, because, when it comes to these major assets and off-ledger accounts and all this stuff, like a good majority of the people that I know that have like dealt with it, or, directly dealing within some of these families and stuff, like they know, and this was set a long time ago, that this belongs to humanity, and it's just kind of a way to transition out. There's a lot of really solid, amazing people that understand things on a very deep level, that are like seeing the things that what like Lee's talking about, that are in position, to help make this transition. Because this is kind of how I see it. I completely agree. Everybody should be taken care of, should be like to their comfort level, like Randall says. Like truly, like, shelter, food, transportation, like whatever, like they need, not just like just getting by. We need to get out of like the scarcity mindset. Like, that's what I was saying. This entire system, like everything's inside out, upside down, backwards, and everything's been inverted. Like when you really dive deep into a lot of stuff, you can see this, like how everything's been kind of inverted and flipped on us, but it's all been somewhat hidden in plain sight. But yeah, like there's some people though out there, a good majority of the population, that they have no idea, about what we're talking about. Like absolutely no idea. They're totally content with what they're doing. They have good jobs, or, they're whatever, they're living their life, and as far as the transition, like I still feel some of it, like with what Lee talked about, can happen right away. but there's still going to have to be a transition from the majority into these other things. And I know there's steps like, and when I say transition, I don't know how long it'll take, you know, but we've become so ingrained, so programmed. And those of us that have done the work, done the inner work, kept seeking, kept researching, kept seeking more truth, you know, we've come to this higher level of consciousness where we could see things differently, and we know the possibilities and all this stuff. Like, we're the ones that are going to be like at the forefront of this transition, and it's going to be like, you know, a gate for all these others to walk through, but we can't like force them, you know. Like, I just see it being somewhat of a problem to be like, you know, super quick, like this is, you know, I see that can happen, but it's still going to be a transition for the majority. And, you know, many, as far as like having unlimited wealth and to do whatever with and all this stuff, like I even, you know, somewhat agree with that, because like everybody has different dreams and goals. Some people, as long as everybody's taken care of, some people don't want anything else. You know, if they have a house and they have food and shelter and whatever, and they're, you know, benefiting society in some way, which there's got to be some sort of change as far as, you know, because there's still got to be like things done and things taken care of that benefits all, you know. But, you know, if you have dreams and you have a very creative mind, like there's artists out there and musicians and very creative, amazing minds out there that are able to do things, or, you know, some of these high level, like spiritual or, you know, healers and stuff that want to go out there and just be able to heal, and, you know, or be able to do their art and put their impact, which it all matters, because every little thing, even us doing these videos, it's like a ripple through, you know, the entire like verse, like it changes things through space and time, you know. Just us speaking words, our thoughts, you know, are changing things as it goes, and people are definitely waking up, and especially the last couple of years, it's like so many more have. But it's, you know, everybody has different desires inside and different, like, for me, I know what I'm not good at, I know what I need help with, and I'm the type of person, I know somebody mentioned earlier, like if somebody else is better, I think it was Lee, at something than I am, you know, like I don't need to, like, you know, have to have this position, or, you know, want to be number one or be a leader or be in the limelight, or, you know, get recognized. I mean, majority of everything I've done for the last like 4 years, like hardly anybody knows. And it's tough at times because you don't get like some of that energy coming in, the thank yous, or the, you know, there's a lot of little things I've subtly done behind the scenes that even the people don't even know, but like all for good reasons, to like start bringing certain things together. But yeah, you know, somebody that's good at art, or a musician, or just wanting to walk around and make people smile and laugh and do whatever, that's just as impactful as building, you know, a resort or a homeless shelter, whatever, because that's how this reality really works. Like, you know, raising the frequency, that's what's gonna propel being able to jump into what Lee talked about, like, you know, as a whole, for like majority of humanity. So the only difference for me is just seeing that there's gonna have to be this transition from what we have now towards, you know, basically, you know, we really don't even need future, I mean, not future, money in the future. You know, so but, you know, with what we have now, it's like I still see that transition, and those of us here at the forefront, like, we can start building out these things for others to walk into. But they gotta like raise their consciousness. They gotta do the inner work. They gotta, you know, there's still a lot of people that are completely, they don't fully grasp and understand these things. So the education's got to change. So, you know, it might take a whole generation of bringing, you know, changing, making this transition happen. So anyway, I don't know if that made sense.
Lots of food for thought. Actually, it would be great to dig into that next week. I can almost guarantee Lee will have some things that he wants to say to that, but unfortunately, we don't have the time to do that right now. I'm going to pass it on to Randall. Gentlemen, it's been a fascinating conversation today. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I went down this path. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, and getting to know Cody a little bit more as well. And it's I just feel really honored and blessed to be in your company, and I'm very thankful. So Randall, I'm going to pass it to you for the final blessing and any final comments, and we will call it a wrap.
Well, the beauty of discussion is what I was thinking as we were going along, because, you know, I'm obviously one of those guys that is not, you know, doesn't hold back from bold statements. And thank you all for, you know, putting up with that to start with, and to offering your own words, because I mean, my God, I love you guys. Like you have every bit as much potential and capacity as I do. And yes, I know like I say, I make bold statements, but I appreciate your comments and your, you know, our ultimate respect for each other. I love you guys, and I want to keep this going. Like, it's just a beautiful thing. Last thing I'd like to say is this subconscious mastery, you know, which is what Cody does. Like, look where he's standing. I mean, God almighty, he's out there. I think you're out there at least a couple times a week, aren't you, brother? Like, I mean.
Yeah, quite a bit. I got my rope for you too.
Yes, you.
Perfect. And that subconscious work is going at our own minds and changing these words, because there's a lot of words, like William said earlier, that we have to think about, because the whole world is built on words, right? And the world being the human construct. That's why I say at the end of every show, with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day on our minds, abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. Important words. Add to those words all you want, but keep those kind of words in your mind, and we'll change it all together, guys. I love you.
Lots of love, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Much love.